It seems almost everything in Newfoundland and Labrador has changed since the start of the Liberal leadership race in March. Gone are the high oil prices and talk of balanced budgets, replaced with warnings about the fiscal, economic, and health crises now facing this province. The new Premier is guaranteed to be brand new to elected politics.
I want to step up in this time of crisis. I've been treating sick patients my whole life. I see the province as a sick patient now.
Andrew Furey is a surgeon who's better known for his charitable work. This is his first time on the ballot, but he comes from a family with deep roots in the Liberal Party.
The status quo was never an option. The status quo is our collective enemy.
John Abbott has spent his career behind the scenes in government, with years of experience as the top health bureaucrat. He's advised premiers for decades. Now he wants the top job for himself. Tonight they face off in a live debate, answering your questions.
I'm a newcomer to St. John's.
My question is,
I want to know if you become Premier.
My question for John and Andrew is,
welcome to a special edition of Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan and I'll be moderating tonight's debate. This debate will look a little different than you're used to. Both candidates are in our studio, but we've got them 30 feet apart. Mr. Furey's campaign also requested a barrier between himself and John Abbott, and we've accommodated that request. Some of tonight's questions will come from myself, others were chosen from the more than 150 that were sent in from every corner of the province. None of the candidates were given any of the questions in advance. They'll hear them at the same time you do. We want tonight to be a discussion between the candidates, so we're not giving strict time limits. We hope the candidates will keep their answers concise, and as moderator, it'll be my job tonight to keep them on topic. We drew for who receives the first question, and so this one is for Andrew Furey.
hi, my name is Mimi Shree, and my question is, if elected as Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, you know that you're going to have to make some really difficult decisions and sometimes some very unpopular decisions, because deep down you truly believe that the decision you make will be beneficial for Newfoundland and Labradorians in the future. What one decision will you make when you first get elected that you believe will be difficult, that will have a positive outcome for the province?
Okay, Mr. Furey, looking for a specific there. What is that one thing that you would do?
Well, thank you, Mimi, for the question. Recently, I've committed to $25 a day childcare. I know that that's not popular with everybody. People are wondering where we're going to get the money to pay for it, but it's something that I'm committed to doing. I look at this both from a social lens and an economic lens. It won't impact everybody, but it will. I'm hearing from families around the province that they just can't afford to get back to work even if they want to. $25 a day daycare will ensure that we can unlock untold potential within the labor force here. It's something I'm committed to doing. It's not an easy decision. We'll have to find ways to make it work, but I'm committed to doing it. And not everyone agrees with it. But here's why they should agree with it. Because it's an investment in our future. The Conference Board of Canada would suggest that $1 invested in early childhood development gives a $6 return. Oxfam sees a 2% return to our GDP on this. So it's the right thing to do, and that's why I'm making that decision.
Okay, Mr. Abbott, what's your one unpopular thing that you would do?
Well, the thing that I certainly want to focus on, and which is going to be a difficult but the right decision, is making sure that we get the guarantee on the promised electricity rate of 13.5 cents a kilowatt hour, because that needs to be in place to allow our businesses and our households to be secure financially going forward.
But how is that an unpopular decision? Because everyone wants to keep electricity rates low. I think she was asking more about things that you might get some backlash for, but you believe are genuinely right there.
Well, I think there are people that are concerned about their rates, but they're also concerned about the implications of what I'm proposing. And what I am suggesting to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador is that we have to make these types of right decisions that may be popular or unpopular, but may be and have to be the right decisions. And going against Ottawa on this is going to be unpopular in some quarters.
Mr. Furey, what do you think about that idea of challenging Ottawa in order to get rates lower?
Well, I look forward to working with Ottawa, not against them. I don't think it's an us versus them type of environment. There's only us here. Canada is complicit in the Muskrat Falls project, and frankly, look, it's easy to beat up on the Muskrat Falls project. The reality is it's not completed yet, and we need to work with our federal partners to ensure that we get this done in an effective, timely, efficient manner so that we can return the value to the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. The rates, everyone would love to promise low rates. We need to work with our federal partners, with Minister Morneau, and he guaranteed keeping those rates at 13.5 cents. The work is ongoing now between the two governments. I'm not going to turn off turbines. I'm going to open doors and ensure that we get the best deal for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
Let's continue this discussion because I think this next question fits in really well here. There is a plan on the books right now to keep rates at 13.5 cents a kilowatt hour, but that was put in place before the pandemic, before thousands of people were put out of work, before the deficit for this province started to soar. And to make that plan feasible, it's going to require hundreds of millions of dollars from the province. Mr. Abbott, this next question is for you. Is this affordable in the environment we have right now and the fiscal situation this province is facing?
Well, I guess this is my key point. The whole Muskrat Falls project, as Judge LeBlanc said, was a mistaken project. And the plan that's before us from Nalcor, Emera, and Ottawa is that the rates have to be paid by the ratepayer, and those rates will double and triple. There's been a lot of discussion, a lot of talk, a lot of paper going around about rate mitigation, but we have not seen anything definitive. There are no guarantees from Ottawa. We have a piece of correspondence from Mr. Morneau, and that's all we have. Now, we have 6 months to really try to put this back on track, and that Ottawa can come forward and guarantee that rate. Otherwise, we cannot move ahead with that project.
Mr. Furey, what's your answer to that question?
Well, I think there has been work done between the two levels of government. I mean, there's been lots of work done with respect to rate mitigation. And no one wants the rates to double or triple, and I'm not going to allow that to happen. But I am going to work with our federal partners to ensure that we get the best deal moving forward. Like I said, it's easy to make these shoot from the hip sound bites. But my question is, after that sound bite, what's the next sentence? And the sentence after that, what's the next set of plans? As we all know, there's an indemnification clause in the agreement. We're on the hook for this no matter what. So it's like building a house, walking away from the mortgage, still expecting to have keys and access to the credit card. More concerning for me is our ability to borrow. Our credit rating will be blown. We won't have access to the bond markets. And our debt servicing will explode. It'll go beyond that of healthcare expenditures.
Yeah. But Andrew, a couple of things there on this. One is that Ottawa is on the hook for this. They have guaranteed the loans at $7.9 billion. The government of Newfoundland and Labrador has not guaranteed or has not needed to guarantee those loans. So Ottawa one is definitely on the hook here. And we also have the deal with Emera, because Emera is now, through the arrangements and the agreements that were put in place, we, Newfoundland and Labrador ratepayers, will be subsidizing Emera up to a tune of $1 billion. That doesn't make any sense to me, and it's that kind of approach that we need to bring to Ottawa and say, look, there's a line in the sand. This is a commercial deal that has gone wrong from the start, and now we need to right it. Using your mortgage analogy, if you cannot pay the mortgage, if you cannot refinance the mortgage, if you have no more equity to put in, then you pass back the keys. And that's maybe what we're going to have to do to Ottawa. Here are the keys to Muskrat Falls. You take it, you run it, because we cannot afford it.
But what about the indemnification clause? We're basically on the hook for this anyway. How do you explain that? How do you explain how we can go to the bond markets afterwards? Where's the trust going to be? How are we going to be able to borrow? Ottawa's not just, I plan to work with Ottawa to ensure that we're working together on this in a collaborative approach so that we can get the best deal forward for Newfoundland and Labrador. I think there's a deal to be had there. I plan to use my relationships and leverage them in Ottawa to get the best deal for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, again, Judge LeBlanc was quite clear. Any penalties on this do not come into play until there's first commercial power, and until we turn those generators on, there is no commercial power to be indemnified against.
Well, let's actually,
one of the generators is already on.
Let's go to the next question, because I think this fits in with some of this discussion, and this race is being watched not just by Newfoundlanders at home, but some expats abroad, and here's one question from one of them.
Good evening. My name is Corey Hobbs, and I'm a lifetime Liberal. The current deficit in Newfoundland and Labrador is out of control. Leaders appear to run to Ottawa and ask Prime Minister Justin Trudeau for an increase on the government-guaranteed credit card. My question for John and Andrew is, what are you going to do to eliminate the deficit and reduce the debt, but while telling the voters in Newfoundland and Labrador that services will have to be cut in your communities. Thank you.
Mr. Furey, this is a question for you. We were just talking about Ottawa trying to bail us out of Muskrat Falls. What are we going to do here at home in order to deal with those deficits and the spending?
So as we've seen around the world in the face of this global economic crisis, governments are investing billions and trillions to stabilize and stimulate the economies. And here in Newfoundland and Labrador, the reality is that we've been accustomed to deficit type of budgets over the last little bit. We need to work towards getting back to balanced budgets. But in the face of the current global economic crisis, we need to be responsible and balanced. I like to break up the economy and the approach to the economy into short, medium, and long-term strategies. In the short term, this is a damage control situation. We need to plug the holes in the ship to keep it moving forward. And in order to do that, I plan to go to Ottawa to strike a new deal with Ottawa so that we can maintain Canadian level of services here in Newfoundland and Labrador. I also plan to create a Premier's Economic Recovery Team and a Chief Economic Recovery Officer that will help but provide advice. In the medium term, once we stabilize the ship and are able to go forward on a trajectory that we're confident with, we need to look at our structural deficit and correct it over time. In the medium term, we need to look at where there's waste in the system. We've shown in this time of disruption during COVID-19 that we can do more with less. We need to look at where there's waste and get rid of it. And then in the long term, with respect to long-term strategies, we need to diversify our economy. We've seen that we can be good in technology here in Newfoundland and Labrador. It's an industry that is not restricted by boundaries. There's going to be a reverse urbanization as such in the face of COVID-19. We need to capitalize on that and build a pipeline to that ecosystem so that our youth have an opportunity to live here in a sustainable way and we grow and diversify our economy.
Mr. Abbott, what's your response to that question? How do we fix the problems ourselves rather than going to Ottawa?
Well, that's exactly where I would start, is that we have to fix the problem ourselves. The government structure we have is really based on a model we developed in the early 1970s. So it is a long time that we change how we deliver services in this province. One of the things that I'm interested in doing is looking at the core services we must deliver, developing and looking at the departments and agencies that we have, and restructure those to deliver those core services, and then we downsize the staffing and management apparatus that is delivering those services. I won't be doing massive layoffs, but we will be downsizing staff through attrition and early retirements. I'll be working with the unions to make sure we deliver on that. But there is no doubt in my mind that the size of government and the cost of government can come down. If we were spending at national levels, we would be in pre-COVID, we would be in surplus situation. So there's lots of room to move, and we have no choice but to go there. And I think the population clearly understands that, and I'm prepared to move on that starting very early in my mandate.
Mr. Furey, do you agree with that approach, that we can actually do those sorts of reductions?
Definitely, we can do that, and that's what I'm committed to doing. That's why I like to break it down in the short. When I say short, it's immediate. We need to stabilize the ship. I mean, we all know that we're going to have a massive deficit this year, and we need to figure out a way to keep the ship afloat. Then we need to look at responsible, balanced, measured ways to get rid of waste within our public service. Our public service is incredibly important. The people working there are incredibly important to the development and growth and sustainability of Newfoundland and Labrador. But we've escalated it over time, and it's going to take us time to get it back to a reasonable size. And we can do that through attrition, early retirement. But more importantly, we can look at this time of disruption to figure out creative ways where we can save inside the system.
Okay, let's move on to talking about individuals' finances. This next question is going to be for Mr. Abbott.
Hello, my name is Liam Duggan, and I am from St. John's. I am very fortunate to have an employer that pays me quite well, but I know many people, like my siblings and my friends, who are struggling while just making over $11.40 an hour in the retail and service sectors. Would you raise the minimum wage to help these people?
So, Mr. Abbott, a lot of talk, especially during these COVID times, about raising the minimum wage. What would you do?
Well, Liam, thank you very much for that question. And I'm certainly committed to increasing the minimum wage. I said that earlier this week. It is inexcusable that we have so many workers in this province who do not have a living wage to meet their rent, meet their mortgage payments, meet their food bills, meet their electricity bills. And we need to move and move as quickly as we can to increase the minimum wage. Now, what I've committed to is that over the next 2 or 3 years that we will move in that direction. I will have an economic task force as one of the things I want them to look at. But we will set the target for $15. We have to pick the time frame which we're going to do that, and then we will move very quickly. And I believe that industry and small business will be on our side. But I also recognize that at our very small business like corner stores, that this will pose a challenge, and I will be looking at a financial offset through the tax system to help them adjust to that minimum wage.
Mr. Furey, what do you think about the idea of a $15 minimum wage?
Well, right now we've just had a review of the minimum wage, and I'm committed to continuing reviewing it over time. I think it should be tied to the consumer price index. I think that more importantly, when we look at minimum wages, it's only one tool that we have in our toolbox to help lift people and grow out of poverty and grow the middle class. Liam, it's a great question, and lots of people are facing this around the province right now. I think we need to look at how we can use other mechanisms available to us to help. I am committed to ensuring that that independent committee that evaluates regularly the minimum wage continues to do so and does so responsibly and effectively, recognizing the CPI. I think it's also important that we recognize that there are other tools that we can use. And to be frank, what I'd be more interested in is a bigger idea. What generally happens in the Atlantic provinces is we're out-competing each other. No one wants to be last when it comes to the minimum wage. We need to all work together to move towards a harmonized minimum wage that's tied to CPI, that will give people that affordable wage that they can grow and develop a sustainable way of life here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, I think one of the challenges with Andrew's answer is, one, he's not committing to going to the minimum wage of $15 an hour. And secondly, if CPI happens to be negative, what happens then? Because that's a real likelihood in the next year.
John, that's why we have an independent committee to review it regularly. We both talk about taking politics out of decision making, having a framework in place that evaluates all the metrics, all the parameters, and looks at the best way to weigh this in a responsible way versus small business and the needs of the employees is the way to go. I would take politics out of it and continue with an independent committee that's able to make those judgments based on the framework available and the evidence available.
Well, but the research will tell us that until you put income in the hands of workers, they are going to be in poverty situations. So we have to move people up the wage line as fast and as quick as we can, and we owe that to our workers. And without that, then we are relying on food banks and income support to help these people. And that's not what we need. We need a commitment on a minimum wage that's a livable wage. And then there are other mechanisms that Ottawa at the national level needs to consider, like a guaranteed annual income, those kinds of things that I want to advocate as Premier for on behalf of all Newfoundlanders.
Look, I'm a big fan of universal basic income as well, but that needs to be a national program. We need to look at all the tools available to us. Why are people still in poverty? We need to do a full poverty strategy review. There hasn't been one done in almost 10 years. We need to update that and figure out if there's educational opportunities, social opportunities that we haven't fully exercised in order to lift people into that middle class and grow a more sustainable way of life for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
Well, and I think that leads well into our next question, because of course, first you need to be able to have a job to even make a minimum wage. And so this next question is for Mr. Furey.
Hello, my name is Yusuf. I am a newcomer attending Memorial University of Newfoundland, and I have noticed that the job and career opportunities here on this island are not robust or abundant, especially for recent university graduates and for the youth. My question is, for you, is as political leaders, how can you or how will you encourage corporate or business employers to support and strengthen the job market here in Newfoundland for new Canadians and for the youth?
Okay, Mr. Furey, how would you help create those opportunities that Yusuf is looking for?
Well, that's a great question, Yusuf, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on it. It leads into what I was saying earlier about diversifying our economy and growing our economy away from, I mean, we're always going to be a natural resource-based economy. That's core to who we are. But we need to look at diversifying it away to other opportunities so that we don't have these swings when commodity prices swing. But this is where I get excited. I'd like to talk about the opportunities in the technology sector. If we grow an ecosystem here that's attracting through incentives and other mechanisms, new firms, we can grow on the ecosystem that's already developing here, whether it's Verafin or Colab. This is great employment opportunities for everyone in the province. When I talk to these technology companies, they say that there's a limited availability of skilled workers. So we can create that here in Newfoundland and Labrador. You can be that in Newfoundland and Labrador. What we can do is we can increase how we're retraining and training displaced Newfoundland and Labradorian workers, but we can also increase the level of immigrations here to an aggressive new target. That will help grow that ecosystem. And if we look at this pipeline to the future, if you will, even further downstream or upstream, we need to create a robust coding training within our K-12 education system and make sure that we're targeting our investments within the university and colleges around our province to ensure that youth have this diverse economic opportunity to be a part in the technology industry. And an investment in technology, of course, is an investment in every single other industry in this province.
Mr. Abbott?
Well, I think I want to get more specific. And Yusuf, welcome to our province and to your province. The thing that youth need is literally a hand up to their first job. And we've all been there. And what I want to do is make sure we reintroduce apprenticeship type programs through all our sectors. I know the Newfoundland Association for Technical Industries and Innovation have such a plan in mind. And I want to make sure we can accelerate that so that graduates can come right into the workplace. I want to look at having an opportunities fund to help, again, graduates move into the workplace so that once they're grounded in employment, they will stay, have families, and grow this economy. So that's really what I want to see, some very specific measures that we can do right away. And I can see that that can happen. And with people like yourself, we're ready to take you in the workforce, and that's what we need to happen.
Okay, let's move on to our next question. This question is going to be for Mr. Abbott. Now, both of you come from what some would call a position of privilege. Mr. Furey, you billed $750,000 last year as a surgeon. Mr. Abbott, when you were a deputy minister, you were making $175,000 a year. What are you going to do for people who don't have the same privileges you do in order to give them some of the same opportunities you've had? And that's, Mr. Abbott, that's a question for you.
Well, thank you, Peter, for that question. And it does go to the core of who we are as a society here in Newfoundland and Labrador, and that we want to make sure there's equal opportunity for all of us. Now, I come from a large family. There's 10 children. And we learned very early what we needed to do to excel, which is make sure you get an education, you go through university or college, and you get to work as quickly as possible. So what we want to make sure is that we have good economic support programs in place, we have a good education system in place, we have a good tuition policy in place, we have grants to allow children to go graduate and go through high school. But we also make sure we have a good childcare and early childhood education system. We also need to have a good, obviously, health system. And we're very well positioned in this province to support people. The tax system needs to be reviewed from time to time to make sure there's no barriers to keeping people here and staying in the province. So it's important that we have right across all our government departments and agencies sound social policies. And I think that's one thing the Liberal Party has done well or throughout the years, is to make sure it catches people before they fall through the cracks.
Mr. Furey, a lot of people have been talking about this issue of privilege. How do you address it?
Well, there's no doubt I come from a background of privilege, but I've always tried to use that privilege to better Newfoundland and Labrador and better the world. I come from a family that, even though I'm privileged, and like I said, I am who I am, I'm privileged, but my father wasn't privileged and my grandmother wasn't privileged. And I've always remembered that at the core of who I was. I saw my father in particular move from the Mount Cashel to the Senate and all be a teacher, grow his family, be a lawyer, grow his family, and then contribute back on a national stage. I've seen how you can use privilege to make sure that we're contributing to the social fabric that is Newfoundland and Labrador. We've seen right now in these times that our social safety net has massive gaps in it that have become really craters in the face of COVID-19. I want to work to use my position, whether it's Premier or as a doctor or any other job I happen to have in Newfoundland and Labrador, to ensure that we're minimizing those gaps, making them less, so that the safety net actually catches people when they fall and lets them get back up.
About that question, though, of privilege, how do you try and address it to make sure that people, some have talked about, for example, systemic racism that exists in our society. How do you address some of those root issues?
Well, for me, Peter, it is engaging in the community. I've done a lot of volunteer work in the past and currently, but as Premier and as leader of the government, is to make sure that all our departments and agencies engage people where they are. We know here in St. John's we have the gathering place, and we can see very firsthand the challenges that individuals face every single day. And I want to be able to work with agencies like that to help us address the systemic issues, whether it's poverty, racism, and other issues in the province. So whether it's the disability community, as I said, they have a list an arm long in terms of ask of the government to help our disabled community. So I think if we pay attention, engage effectively, and be prepared to invest in some of these solutions, we will move mountains in a very short period of time.
Mr. Furey?
With respect to systemic racism, the truth is, even though we'd like to believe that it just exists in the United States, it exists here at home in Newfoundland and Labrador. We need to make sure that we're using the office of leader or premier to get a better understanding of where it is and change the system, change the culture, so that our society reflects who we are. We're a diverse people. We need to make sure that we understand that, listen to racialized people around the province, understand what they're feeling. I would never pretend to fully understand. As Mr. Abbott and I are both white males. When I go into a grocery store, I don't feel a clerk peering over my shoulder. If I'm ever pulled over, I don't feel threatened. Would never pretend to understand those issues, but we need to use the office of Premier and government in general to make sure our legislature is reflective of the diverse society that we want to become. It's incumbent upon whoever wins this race to ensure that that's a top priority, and I will make it one.
Well, it sounds like a topic that both of you have a fair amount of agreement on. Let's go to our next question. This is a question for Mr. Furey. So during this campaign, you've avoided giving out a lot of specifics, saying you want to get the best advice, you want to listen to people when you get into office. It's a very similar message that we heard from your predecessor, Dwight Ball, in his run-up to the 2015 election campaign, using phrases like, if you can't listen, you can't lead. Once he was elected, he delivered one of the least popular budgets in the history of the province. How do we know, if you become Premier, that same thing won't happen this time?
Frankly, because we don't have the time for that to happen. We need to look at the frameworks of decision-making and gain the best evidence available. I'm not afraid to seek advice. I think true leadership is surrounding yourself with people who are able to provide the advice that is needed. Smarter people on certain issues than you in the room, so that you can use that in a decision-making matrix, weigh all the variables, and make the appropriate decision. I have released a number of items in particular that are already actionable. One is the Chief Economic Recovery Officer. The second is the Premier's Economic Advisory Team, $25 a day childcare. When I talked to the Board of Trade, I was committed to reviewing the tax efficiency on a regular basis and looking at the payroll tax more regularly to ensure that the $1.3 million before its threshold is appropriate and not punitive. So there are details there, but I know that I don't know everything. There's not a magic bullet here. I'm not going to be one person leading this government. I think we've seen in the past how that can lead us to mistakes.
Well, I think, Andrew, the question I have, and many others have, is where are the specifics? The evidence is there on many of the issues that we are dealing with. And I come at it from, obviously, looking at that evidence, the experience I have in government, and knowing that on day one, I am prepared and willing to tackle the very difficult issues in front of us with some very specific and concrete measures, whether it's the budget, Muskrat Falls, NALCOR, the size of government, all of those issues. The information is out there. People are ready for action. And in doing that, yes, you bring people in and you can consult with them. But it shouldn't delay and cannot delay us moving one step further, because by September, we need to have a budget. And I know that that is something I'm prepared and willing to do and can do right from the start. So, and my problem and challenge in this campaign is that I feel like I'm shooting at shadows, because I'm not seeing specifics from your campaign. And as a result, we aren't progressing in this campaign as fast and as far as we should by this date.
Well, with all due respect, I just gave you some examples of specifics. There's still 5 weeks left. The double-edged sword with experience is you had a chance, sir. You had a chance to make a difference, to influence where our province is, and it wasn't capitalized on. So I bring a new set of experience. Experience can't be defined by the way that you just tried to define it. This is, you've had your chance, you've had 20 years to make a difference, and yet now you're trying to be the agent of change. I don't, that's not reconcilable, sir.
I would suggest then you don't understand the role that I played.
No, I understand fairly well the role you played, sir. Like the role you played in multiple decisions that government made over the past over the past 20 years, including in health, including in pandemic planning, including in nurse planning. I understand the decisions you've made, sir. Yeah. This should be about decision making, using the best evidence available to us, seeking outside counsel, not being a one-person show.
Well, I'm certainly not a one-person show. The role I played as deputy minister was to develop plans, present them to my minister, who would then present them to the cabinet. I did not make the decisions. If the decisions were based on my recommendation, but if they made the decisions
that you didn't influence them, sir.
I would certainly try, and that was certainly my job. But if they had accepted all my recommendations, we would be in a different place right now. I can certainly tell you that.
Well, an interesting debate. Things are just getting started here. You're watching a special live debate on a special edition of Here and Now between the two leadership candidates. One of these men is going to be Premier. With us here in the studio is Andrew Furey and John Abbott. And the next question we have is about healthcare, and this is one that was sent in from Sean. This is specifically for Mr. Abbott. Mr. Abbott has stated in the past that Newfoundland and Labrador has too many nurses. Seeing what an important role they've played during COVID-19, does he still feel the same? How would you answer that question? Do we have too many nurses?
Well, thank you for the question. I think the context of my comments when I was quoted was around the issue of how many nurses do we need. Right now, we have over 40% more nurses per capita than the rest of Canada. So in that context, I will still raise the question, do we need more nurses? What is more important, I think, in this discussion is on making sure that our nurses work to their full scope of practice, and whether it's an RN, an LPN, a nurse practitioner. And we need to make sure that they are given the resources and the respect and safety that they need in the workplace. Using COVID as an example, yes, I can't accommodate or give the accommodation, to our nursing fraternity for what they have done. But it still begs the question, make sure we have the right nurses providing the right care. And I've talked to the Nurses Union on this, and it's important that we look at our nursing workforce to make sure we have it right on a go-forward basis, because we still need to attract young nurses into the profession, and we also need to make sure that the care is provided where it needs to be provided, whether it's in the hospital, in the community, or in our nursing homes.
Mr. Furey, you worked alongside nurses in the operating room and elsewhere in the healthcare system. What do you think about that idea that we have too many nurses?
Not only have I worked with them here, I've worked with them abroad, and I know that we have the best nurses anywhere in the world here in Newfoundland and Labrador. I don't subscribe to the opinion that they're not being utilized well. I have seen them work until they can't work anymore. I've seen nurses leave their jobs because they're too stressed. I've seen operations be canceled because we just don't have the nurses to accommodate the surgical care. I've seen patients in hallways because there's a bed available, but there's no nurse to look after them. Our nurses are an incredibly important piece of Newfoundland and Labrador. We need to make sure that we respect them, that they are being employed in the right way, and we need to make sure that I've seen them firsthand in COVID-19. I saw the anxiety in nurses' faces as they walked into the COVID unit, unsure of what lied ahead. I've seen the stress that they bear. They look after their patients. They take their patients' stories home. They truly care, and they're an incredibly important part of who we are as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And I'm committed to working with nurses to ensure that they continue to be a pillar of the social fabric of who we are.
And I think an important aspect here is how the nursing workforce is managed within our health authorities. And I know from time to time again, and we hear nurses that they can't get a day off to attend their daughter's graduation. Those things should not be happening. We shouldn't be having nurses unavailable for whether it's an emergency or in the OR. That's a management issue. It has nothing to do with the number of nurses. It has, are we dealing and are we managing them and we working with them well? And that's where the Nurses Union and I see it similarly. We got to manage our workforce much more effectively. And whether it's nurses, physicians, LPNs, or our hospital support staff, it all comes together under a very effective management regime, which is stressed right now and needs to change.
Well, I mean, I come at it from a different perspective. I've been on the front lines of healthcare, not behind a desk, but on the front lines. And I've seen cases canceled, operations canceled, people who have waited a long time to have their operation canceled because there just aren't nurses. I've seen the OR volumes have to adjust because there's just not nurses. So they have to be employed appropriately and utilized appropriately so that they can develop their full skill set, absolutely. But I mean, I'm really not sure how you can say that we have enough when all these things are happening and it's just a management issue.
Well, again, if you look at the data and the number of nurses we have in this province relative to our population, we have to look at that. At the same time,
but that's just using one metric, sir. When you look at, you need to consider density, you need to consider the quality of care, you need to consider the scope of care, you need to consider tertiary versus rural hospitals. You need to consider all of this when you're making decisions about how nurses are going to be deployed.
But as does every other province. So I compare apples to apples when I'm talking about this. And when you're talking about frontline experience...
So PEI and Newfoundland are the same?
No, Andrew, I did not say that. I said comparable jurisdictions. So we would compare with Nova Scotia or New Brunswick or Saskatchewan or Manitoba. And
also, we have when 3 times the landmass and 1/3 the population.
But not when it comes to what's happening in the hospital setting, and that's what we're talking about here. And when you talk about frontline experience, you're talking about the OR.
No, sir. You've said that before. I've been in clinics. It's not fair just to say that I only belong in the operating room. I provide clinical care in numerous different fashions.
Yep. So again, I'm looking at right across the spectrum, and when I talk to frontline workers, they also see the waste, they also see the inefficiencies, and they want to see the changes that I'm talking about.
I agree with you there. I've seen nurses tell me where there's waste. Yep. I've seen waste. We've all seen waste, and it's not responsible to continue with waste in the healthcare budget. I agree.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to a question that we have from Labrador, and this question is going to go to Mr. Furey.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Wolfrey. I'm from Riglet, Municipality of Labrador. My concern is about transportation. It's about having a reliable system. It's about food security. It's about increasing access to tourism. It's about connecting us to the rest of Canada. And my question is, I want to know if you become Premier, will you commit to building a road from the north coast of Labrador, joining us to the rest of Labrador, Newfoundland, and Canada? Thank you.
Mr. Furey, it's very expensive if you try and get from Happy Valley Goose Bay to Rigolet or the other communities on the coast. What are you going to do for people like Charlotte Wolfrey?
Well, thanks, Ms. Wolfrey, for your question. I have been fortunate enough in my time in my medical career to spend some time in Labrador. I did my family practice month in Goose Bay. I've run a clinic in Lab City, and I truly love the big land, but I would never pretend to fully understand all the issues that you face. But you hit the nail on the head. There's issues with food security, accessibility. And accessibility means not just for food and access to your community, but so that you can get your brilliant tourism product or whatever product you're developing in your community to market. We need to ensure that that's done in an efficient, effective way. I understand, I've talked to some leaders in Labrador, that there is a plan put forth to government about the road to the north. I look forward to figuring out with municipal leaders and Indigenous leaders alike what the best plan is to ensure affordable access to the communities, especially on the coast of Labrador.
Mr. Abbott, will you actually commit to building a road as Ms. Wolfrey has requested there?
I'm certainly prepared today to make sure we get a feasibility study done as quickly as possible to determine, one, can we do, and I think that maybe the answer is yes, what the cost of that road would be, is it what the Nunavut government itself would want, and whether or not then we can get financing for that, and again, we would have to look to Ottawa for that. But yes, and if it helps solve the issues that were presented here, definitely. But while we're waiting for that road, whenever it comes about, we need to deal with the transportation issues in coastal Labrador. We need to make sure that we address the food security issues. We need to make sure that their electricity rates are affordable. And so all of those issues are still there, road or no road, in the short term. I'm committed to working with the Nunavut government leadership, the Innu leadership, Nunavut leadership, and the other communities in addressing the multiple challenges in Labrador, whether they're economic or social. But coming from a St. John's perspective and Confederation building perspective, I will want to make sure that their needs, their interests are presented and we respond to those. I'm not going to be dictating from St. John's the solutions. We need to make sure we have their input and their buy-in, and there are multiple issues at play, and the Labrador file will be something that I will be managing myself on behalf of the government so that we can make sure that we address these issues once and for all.
Well, there's another Labrador question that a lot of people are concerned about, and that's around kids in care. This is a question for Mr. Abbott.
Hi, my name is Paulette Hart. I'm from Shahajuna First Nation. I live in Shahaju all my life. We have a lot of issues regarding children being taken from their homes, and then they come back, they don't know their culture, they don't know their language, they don't know their family, they don't know where they come from. So it's like they don't know where they're really from, and it's a big issue here when the kids do come back. And I want to know what will be done for these kids that do come back into our community.
There has been an inquiry that's been promised into this, but it's an issue that, as we wait for the inquiry, continues to go on. So, Mr. Abbott, what would you do to address Paulette's concerns there?
Well, Paulette, thank you very much for your observation and the question. There's no doubt in my mind that what we're doing in Labrador when it comes to our Innu children and other children needs to be radically changed. And I'm prepared to work towards that with the Innu Nation. We need to make sure that children do not leave their communities. And we need to work with you and the federal government, if needed, to make sure we have the resources in the community and that we work with a model that suits the Innu people. The inquiry, unfortunately, hasn't taken off. I would certainly want to speak with the Grand Chief and how we can expedite that. And if that means we can work side by side with the Innu and move ahead, waiting for the federal government or not, but that's something I want to have that conversation very early in my mandate. But what I can say to the Innu communities is that we will be changing what we do, but we will be doing it with you. And we know that there's capacity issues, there's challenges right across the spectrum when it comes to child welfare in this province. But we can take a page from other jurisdictions and work collaboratively with you to address that going forward, so that there are no more children coming out of your community and going into others. I mean, this is part of the racism issue we're talking about, and this is institutionalized in our child welfare system, and we will and have to change that.
Mr. Furey?
Well, thank you for the question, Paulette, and I'm glad that my opponent and I are somewhat aligned on this. The status quo is not working, and we all need to recognize the intergenerational trauma that exists, and it continues to exist, and we need to do better as a government. I need to express my sincere condolences to the recent tragedy and continued tragedies that happen in these communities, and it's simply not good enough. I will commit to working with Grand Chief Rich immediately to ensure that this inquiry is done in an effective and efficient way quickly. But I wouldn't jeopardize the outcomes that these communities need for time. I'd like to sit with him and the rest of the community to understand what they truly need to break this cycle of intergenerational trauma. I mean, we need to look forward to a better reconciliation plan, one that is not reactionary, but one that it reflects who we want to become as a society in Newfoundland and Labrador. We need to make sure that that plan is reflective of social issues, educational issues, as you suggested, Paulette, so that you still have that heritage. And we also need to reflect on the justice issues and health issues that are permeating through some of these communities. I'm committed to working to get the inquiry done so that it delivers what your communities need for a path forward to prevent the continued tragedies and the status quo.
On this topic of children, let's go to another question. This one is about Mr. Furey's proposal to have $25 a day childcare and to roll it out in the next 2 years. So let's take a look at that question. It comes from Dolores Billings, who wants to know, how is Andrew Furey planning to fund his childcare proposal? Where is the revenue coming from? So, Mr. Furey, where are you going to get the money when we already have financial problems with the programs we already have?
Sure, thanks for the question, Dolores. It's a great one, and thanks for the opportunity to be able to speak on it. In the short term, what I would propose to do is use some of the COVID money, which is supposed to stimulate the economy and get people back to work. What I'm hearing around the province is some families in particular just can't afford to get back to work because of childcare. It's a wash for them, or it's a loss for them at some times. But if you back up even further and look at this from a greater lens or a higher level, ultimately, this is a seed that planted now will bear fruit in the future. We need to make sure that we're using these frameworks and this kind of thinking to ensure that we're growing the economy. $1 invested in early childcare gives a $6 return, according to the Conference Board of Canada. Oxfam, again, suggests that it could lead to a 2% GDP growth. But more importantly, here in the province, I think that we have a demographic issue and a labor force issue. So that will eventually lead to loss of productivity and result in less revenues for the province. Yet we have a labor force that we're not accessing fully. We're giving this opportunity back to a labor force that exists so that can grow the economy and move into the future and then pay for itself, which I think is a lens that we should all lend to this. It's not just a social argument, it's an economic argument.
Mr. Abbott, what do you make of that idea of $25 a day childcare?
Well, certainly expanding daycare, access to daycare in this province is essential. I think Andrew's policy is a bit short-sighted in some respects, in that, one, we need to expand the number of spaces. Right now, we have around 8,000. To meet the need, we would have to increase that to 15,000, and I'm committed to doing that. We also need to look at after-school programs, and that we can be using the schools for those, and I'm committed to doing that. And third, we need to look at making sure junior kindergarten is fully funded and established, because that will also help the issues around care for children, but also education, which is really early childhood education. And the sooner that we can have children attached to learning, the more effective we are going to be in the long term. So we need to do a lot of work in a short period of time. And the advocates in the community have pushed for this for years and years. They will have a receptive ear with me as I'm Premier.
Mr. Furey, what about that idea that we need more spaces and
Definitely.
just lowering the cost for some isn't going to address the needs that many parents still have?
So I agree. That's why I put in a 2-year time frame. Some people are saying it's too short. Some people are saying it's too long. I like to try to plan for policies that I can commit to and are going to exercise on. I think we can do this quicker than 2 years, but we need some time to get in there to develop the concept, committed to it, but to understand the systems and structures that we need in place in order to develop and gain opportunities so that families can have access to this crucial care from a social perspective and an economic one.
But I think, Andrew, the reality is that the structures and everything there, it is a commitment by government to actually start to accelerate, whether
Well,
it's...
I've said I'm going to accelerate the process.
And I guess what I'm saying is that needs to start now because it's long overdue, and we need to expand those spaces. We need to make sure that junior kindergarten is up and running. They've been talking about it for years. We need to do that. We need to make sure that there are no dropouts from high school that we're seeing, and nobody's doing anything about that. So all of this is tied together in making sure our children are ready for this world, and that women can come into the labor force to meet, as you suggest, the labor force needs for this province. It's all tied together. It's part of my economic recovery package, and that's important that we move on this quickly. And 2 years is, in my view, is 2 years too long.
But I mean, surely you'd recognize that it's going to require time to create these spots, create the systems so that people, the model that we're going to use, we need to listen to stakeholders to ensure that we're developing and distributing the product that is necessary to develop our children. That takes some time. I'm not going to shoot from the hip. I'm going to make sure that I'm so committed to this program, I'm going to make sure that we do it right. And that it's really the responsible thing to do to establish a timeline behind that to ensure that we do get it right. Getting it done quickly won't serve us at all. Getting it done right will. Getting it done right will, sir.
But getting subsidies out the door can be done overnight. What I'm focused on is making sure we have these other elements in place, and they're overdue.
And the structural change that you're describing will take time.
Let's move on to the next question, and this one is about healthcare.
My name is Antoine. I'm a newcomer to St. John's. I moved here in October of last year. My question to you is, we know that it's really difficult to get healthcare here for newcomers, and specifically family doctors. It's really difficult. It's a challenge to find a family doctor. They're in very short supply. And when you do get actually like a healthcare representative to help you out, sometimes they're not aware of the trauma that refugees and newcomers carry with them. So my question is, how would you improve that system?
Mr. Abbott, you used to be the deputy minister for that system. He talks specifically about getting more family doctors. 1 in 5 Newfoundlanders and Labradorians don't have a family doctor. How did we solve that?
Well, it's a challenge to our healthcare system. We have a medical school that continues to graduate family physicians. Our challenge, of course, is to make sure, one, they stay in the province, and then they're actually distributed throughout the province, and that they don't stay in the Northeast Avalon. So there's a lot of work to be done there. Our doctors are paid well, as we know, so that's not really the issue. It is making sure that the practice that they go into suits their professional needs. Part of that is making sure we have primary healthcare teams, and we are well behind where we need to be in that. And I worked on that for years. And we need to make sure that we make vast progress in that over the next year or two. In terms of Antoine's comments around being a refugee and also seeking health care in the province, again, we need to make sure our students, our medical students, are trained in these issues because they're relatively new to us. And so that's something we need to do. And we have put in some resources through the university, through the med school, and some family physicians at Eastern Health to address this particular population. But we need to spread that resource and support and knowledge throughout the community. So that goes back to our training. And also, again, we're We're looking at how we use other practitioners, whether it's nurse practitioners or nurses in the community, to take some of the pressures off our family physicians. And that's where team-based approach will help us move that yardstick further, but it's taking more time than it should.
Mr. Furey?
Thanks again for the question. It's an important one. I know a lot of family doctors. My wife Allison's a family doctor. My sister Rebecca's a family doctor. And I've recently chatted to the Newfoundland and Labrador Medical Association about the issues facing family practice in Newfoundland and Labrador. And they're immense. And the system needs to change. The system needs to change so that we're able to develop and deliver, the care that you need. I get patients all the time. They're in my specialist clinic, but yet they don't have access to a family doctor. I have to find access to the family doctor for them. So that's unacceptable. We need to find better ways than making sure that family doctors are available for all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. We've seen in this recent time of COVID-19 that we can be creative in how we get access to family doctors. We can use Teams or we can use virtual care as well to ensure that we're delivering the product that you need as a patient. The second part of your question is with respect to being a refugee. This is incredibly important, and I've worked with some of the doctors who are developing some of the curriculum in the medical school and looking after refugees in particular. We need to make sure that it's integrated into the education of our medical students. We need to make sure it's integrated into the family practice residency training program, which it is, but we can always make sure that it's better. We need to have more aggressive immigration targets in the province here. We need to make sure that the medical education that our students are receiving is reflective of the society that we want to become.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that discussion. And in fact, that's it in terms of the time that we have to go through questions. But before we leave you, each of the candidates has prepared a closing remark, and we are giving them 2 minutes. By draw, Mr. Abbott will go first.
Well, thank you, Peter, for hosting, and Andrew for participating. And I've found this to be a very engaging debate, and would like to see more of them. My friends, I'm not much for idle talk and political rhetoric. I'm about policy, planning, and action. I'm about taking charge of our future. Now, if you want business as usual, politics as usual, I'm not your choice. But imagine what it would be like if for once we made decisions based on the best for you and our province, not politics. Because when I'm behind closed doors, I won't be talking about good politics, only good policy. Now, you might not like every decision I make, but I won't run from them, and I will give you the straight answers. And the reasons for my decisions will not be kept secret. Let's try that approach for a year. I think you will be very pleasantly surprised, because you will find out we can take charge and do the business of government differently, and we'll all be better for it. I want to thank you, and stay safe, and enjoy your summer.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Mr. Furey, your closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Abbott and Peter and all you for listening tonight. It's a beautiful day out there. I'm sure you're anxious to get outside. My friends, it's clear. We're fighting a battle on 3 fronts. In healthcare, I've seen firsthand from the front line what we need to do to protect our province from any future outbreaks in this pandemic. Our dedicated healthcare workers need our support, and we must be ready for what's next. An economy in peril affects all of us, and it seems to be there's just one dark forecast after another. We need to move from now to next, and that is where the heavy lifting is. From oil and gas to tourism to our fishery, we need to reinvigorate and reimagine these industries, and we must address the social inequality in our province. Rethink how we approach mental health and take better care of our marginalized and those who have fallen through the cracks that have become crevices in the face of COVID-19. But there's a common denominator in all 3 battles, and it is hope. I would like to leave you all with this one ask. Rise above to once again step up for Newfoundland and Labrador as you have many times before. This can be a movement. I don't care about your political stripe. I care about what you bring to the table. I'm calling on all innovators, idea generators, true believers, because I firmly believe that we have the brightest minds here, and they will help shine a light through this, our darkest hour. Step up, because we are at a crossroads. We don't need more of the same. the negativity, the mudslinging. Together, my friends, we can rise above all that. To change any system, you must be willing to challenge it. To date, in my career, I've been neither a politician nor a bureaucrat, but I am a change maker, and I'm ready for it full time, and I know you are too. Thank you very much.
Well, and thank you to both John Abbott and Andrew Furey for coming in for tonight's debate. So how will either of these two become Premier? Well, it's the Liberal members and party supporters who will get to vote. Anyone 14 years or older can sign up, but if you want to do it, you have to do it by Sunday. So you have just 3 days to do it, and there is no fee in order to sign up. With a pandemic underway, voting is going to look a little different. There won't be any in-person voting. Instead, it's going to be done electronically or through the phone, and you will have several days leading up to the final day to vote. That key date in all of this? It's going to be August 3rd. That's when the party will announce at a virtual convention, so no big ballroom, no balloon drop, who the next Premier of this province will be. And of course, that will mark the end for Dwight Ball and his leadership as we choose a new Premier. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great evening.